staring right at the explosion. Rip harasser. Oh my god, is it going to space? It's going to space.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Be free, my beautiful child. I don't care if I get killed right now. Oh my god. Ooh, baby, this one's gonna be a nightmare. Hey, remember when Planetside Arena got announced and I called it a terrible idea and outlined why it was a terrible idea? Yeah, well, it turns out I was exactly right 10 months later. This game is a mess. Nearly every prediction I made about this game ended up either being right or it's too soon to tell, but looking like they're likely to come true. I wasn't even expecting to make a video this month, but who am I to pass up an opportunity to rub it in the faces of every mouth breather in the comments that was like, it's not just gonna be a battle royale. About a month and a half after the game was announced, Planetside Arena got a closed beta session where the chosen few of the most apologetic of the Planetside 2 apologists were allowed to help Daybreak Games get through all the bugs and gameplay issues that they had made so far. Fast forward just under 9 months after that, and the game just went extreme early access last weekend. I got on with a few fellow Planet Man survivors, namely the Yamix and Nico 101, and we played for as long as we could, which was about 2 hours. And to be fair, that is 30 minutes longer than I was able to make it into Radical Heights, so this game has that going for it at least. Planetside Arena is currently a 2-mode battle royale game where you play as the Not TR, the Not New Conglomerate, and the Not Spandex Party Crew in the far future of Araxis, where knowledge of classes has been mostly lost and it has been many years since anyone has ever said the word giraffe camo. All traces of faction semblance have been lost into generification, and the only thing that's left is endless fighting and loot boxes. Have fun, losers! Despite all 310 active players of Planetside 2 coming into the comments for my first video on this game and swearing up and down that Planetside Arena was going to have a bunch of different modes and BR was just one of the many, it turns out there are only 2 modes, and both of them are a variant of the Battle Royale formula. The first one of these is Teams mode, which has you in trios dropping into the map to do Battle Royale things. They say this mode is supposed to have 150 people in it, but I never saw the total counter get out of the 60s during the entire time we were playing. Now, aside from general upgrades, which we'll get into a sec, you already start with your base, primary, secondary, and tertiary weapons, which is nice. You do have a bit of control over where you drop, but aside from a waypoint you can set and really bad voice communication, there is no way to coordinate where you'll drop with your buds unless you're trying to use that voice chat or you do the smart thing like we did and just hop into Discord. This mode is extremely generic, and aside from the starting weapons, there's not much to go on about with what makes this mode unique, and even then the starting weapons at the skill level they are, like with tiers, it's kind of like going into a DayZ server and getting a Makarov. It may as well not be there. And then there's squad mode, where you get 12 dudes all together in one big team to drop all at once and look for other groups of 12 to fight it out. I was repeatedly told by people who had already played this game for about 14 hours, and it had only been out for 2 days, so that's kind of impressive if they're not counting beta hours, that this was the fun mode. It was not the fun mode. It was the bad mode. The big problem is that when you're in a group of 12, all the problems you might encounter in a group of 3 are multiplied by a factor of 4. Ever have a problem with one guy that keeps grabbing all the drops, leaving you dangerously unequipped? Now, you have at least 10 of those guys. Trouble coordinating where you're gonna go with all your battle buddies? Well, may Vanu have mercy on your soul. When 2 groups of players in squad mode finally do meet and fight it out, it was more chaotic than fun, and no one really knows what's going on outside of their immediate area. Half the time we just ended up shooting at each other from different hills to little effect for reasons that I'll get into later. If I had to sum it up, it feels like I'm playing normal Planetside 2, except all the stuff that made Planetside 2 cool and unique and exciting, like massing up your armor division or meeting up with a bigger force, are gone. And it doesn't have stuff on the opposite end of the spectrum to make it quick and speedy with loadouts like a Battlefield game does. Planetside Arena's squad mode is effectively the worst of both worlds. By the way, this mode boasts having 300 people among 25 teams in it, and I never saw the player count get past 8 teams with about 80 total people in the match. That's not a good look. To make matters worse, there's really bad issues with pop-in, draw distance, and other bugs being associated with not being able to see other players properly due to the game's graphics. Just because your PC can handle a max draw distance of 6,000 doesn't mean the game itself can handle it. I was told by someone who was in the beta, who had been following the game's development closely, that these are actually new, upscaled textures that you're seeing on the screen, but for some reason, somebody put a bunch of cell shaders all over them. The result is often you will see a player first across a large distance, but it's just like a gray outline of them before the rest of the player player loads in, and despite it being well within your draw distance, you can't Q-spot them. Don't fret though, because once the whole model is loaded in, you can't Q-spot them anyway until they are within 50 to 60 meters of you, and by that time there's no point in spotting because everyone has seen them already and the firefight is going on. And this is just a tip of the iceberg when it comes to bugs and bad ideas. The hardest part about writing this video was I just sat in front of my outline and key points for like an hour trying to figure out how the heck do I organize all these things that are wrong with the game or just bad ideas into like a neat and orderly thing. But I said screw it, I'm just gonna put it in one massive topic. So here goes. To start, there's how for some reason once you choose a class in the lobby, you cannot change your class after that even though it prompts you to. There's also how there's no text chat in this game anywhere, which makes in-lobby communication a nightmare. Speaking of nightmares, readying up is one in and of itself. You all have to be on the same server individually and it won't tell you who is on what server or that being on different servers is a problem. If one person is unwittingly in the Europe server and all the rest of you are in the US, they silently get kicked as you get into the lobby. Also, long-range combat is heavily discouraged to the point that they outright remove sniper rifles, and the best you can get are some hokey battle rifles that literally no one used in Planetside 2 unless they were some YouTuber trying to get an Araxium for a YouTube video. However, despite players popping in real bad and long-range weapons being a big no-no for Daybreak Games because maybe they couldn't balance them, there is no melee of any sort in this game. No knives, no weapon butting, no punching people in the face, nothing. I checked the control scheme like 3 times and had the Yamix double check over on his end, and there are literally no melee options in this game that heavily discourages long-range play by its weapon loadouts. However, the option menu is also the only place that you can toggle the camera between first and third person, and first person is objectively at a disadvantage compared to third person players, since not only do they not get that wider view, nor the ability to use the camera to look around corners like third person does, but third person gets all the advantages of first person gameplay because when you right click to aim down sights, it snaps to a normal aim down sights instead of a zoom in. This game is full of bad ideas like that. You know what it isn't filled with? Finished assets. Most of the stuff here is stuff that was reused and retextured from Planetside 2 or other unused assets from the game. There's some unique stuff like this cool windmill thing, but you'll get a lot of deja vu looking at guns, vehicles, and areas on the map. They couldn't even be bothered to make a new set of icons for your weapons because an AK-47 is totally something that wasn't from the asset store. I'm pretty sure those other icons are generic too. By the way, there's no pinging, there's no text chat and match, there's no sort of like quick communiques like in Tribe or the original Planetside. There is no sort of easy communication that consistently works. You get a waypoint that you can only operate through the map, which is clumsy at best, and Planetside's terrible trademark voice chat, which ducks all other audio on your PC, so screw you if you were trying to use Discord or something to communicate. Arena does do some things okay, but the majority of them were borrowed from other games. There's nothing inherently wrong with this, but I'm not surprised that this game contributes next to nothing to the genre of battle royale games that isn't trying to mitigate the game's shortcomings. One thing it does do that I like a bit is that you start with the full set of weapons before you even hit the ground. You even get to customize them a bit before the start of the match. This would be pretty cool, except it's all still Planetside 2-esque combat, which means you need a solid 30 seconds of automatic fire to someone's head to kill someone, and everything feels like you're running around on smoothed over concrete floors. So everyone's running in that way where you're kind of being careful not to slip, but you don't even get to slide around like you are on ice. By the way, the kickback and screen shake in this game is insane, and you don't get much better with better tier guns. It's also kind of nice that you get a personal vehicle to speed around the map in the event you can't get your hands on one of the good vehicles, which, by the way, harassers are effectively invincible early game because no one has rocket launchers yet unless you get really lucky. It's nice, but it definitely feels like they're mitigating that we've officially hit the point where these maps are way too big and it's hindering the game. I don't even think with the full player cap that they initially boasted to all the gaming press that they would have, that these maps would feel like they're fun. There is so much nothing in these maps. This game boasts its huge fights and how many people are in each map, but like I said earlier, we spent a lot of time in the lobby and it never got full. Like after 5 minutes or so, the game would just start up with a match like maybe having half the people it said it was gonna be, and we just go. Let's get a little more into that map being too big too. Planetside Arena boasts a map that is 64 square clicks and an 8x8 square, which is way too big even for a battle royale game. So much of this game is just wandering around looking for literally anyone else just for the sake of having something to do that isn't picking over abandoned bases for supplies, which will get old fast in teams as you'll get geared fairly quickly thanks to there being being only 3 or 4 of you to like 4 or 5 deserted bases to yourself after initial skirmishes. In squads though, there's 12 of you, so it's just a race against your own team to ninja the loot. Seriously, at times I got more Fallout 4 vibes from Planetside Arena's mid-game because you're just wandering from ruin to ruin, scavenging for useful stuff, and maybe you'll have to fight someone after 15 minutes or so. Maybe if the map was like half or a third of the size that it was, this wouldn't be a problem. Or maybe if they did what some VR games do, where the circle starts in certain places, so only certain parts of the map are in play each round, it wouldn't be so bad. And who knows, maybe they'll actually try to do that to mitigate how empty everything is. But for now, this game is a big empty nothing with a bunch of cookie cutter bases in it. And you know what would make this dumpster fire even better? Loot boxes everywhere. This game is entirely based on loot boxes, the pre-purchase incentives, loot boxes, the starter packs, like one set of skins if you spring for the $60 one, and loot boxes. What do you get for achieving your daily missions? Loot boxes. How do you get any and all upgrades for your gear and classes? Loot boxes. It is loot boxes all the way down, baby. Seriously though, no one likes loot boxes in a game, and while it can be forgiven in a free-to-play game as long as it isn't egregious, this certainly isn't one of those cases. I've personally never liked loot boxes in games because a lot of the time it's used to allow the art team to get super lazy. Thanks to loot boxes, instead of having to make regularly cool, unique, awesome skins that people actually want to put on, you can just crap out dozens upon dozens of palette swaps for the default skin and bury 1 or 2 unique and interesting skins in an ocean of those palette swaps. And people just have to grind through loot box after loot box to maybe get the thing they actually want instead of just paying a set amount to get the thing they wanted in the first place. And you know what? You know what to even make that better? Add actual objective upgrades to the mix where you'll need to actively grind and spend to maybe get the thing that will give you an edge in a fight. And this becomes a serious issue. This is like pay to maybe win. You can say the usual spiel all you want about, oh, it's skill-based because it's a real-time first-person shooter and all that stuff, but if I can resurrect my bros twice as fast as you did because I have a better thing I got from the loot boxes, or I run twice as fast, or I have no spread in my secondary weapon as a light assault because I got it through a loot box and you did not, I am objectively at an edge, which will allow me to win more often even though I suck at these games. Everything just always leads back to the loot boxes in this game. So what the heck are you supposed to do if you're just playing free and you don't have 30 hours in a day to grind for the good stuff? And you know what's even better than a loot box with upgrades in it? A $10 loot box for all the stuff you actually want. That's right, a $10 loot box. If it wasn't bad enough that you've got your passive upgrades, skill buffs, and etc. in the loot boxes, you can pay an additional premium to get a loot box that will exclusively have the good stuff in it. And what, normal loot boxes aren't enough? Like, I get that there are different tiered loot boxes and other things in games, but this is just egregious. This is also, the price is based off how boxes of this caliber cost 1,000 formerly SMED bucks, which will get you to spend a minimum of $10. You can either shell out 2 times at $5 to get exactly as much as you needed. You can pay $10 once for a SMED buck pack of 1,100 credits so that you'll have 100 useless SMED bucks when you're done, all the way up to the best value of you shelling out $100 on this game that will net you 13.5 premium loot boxes. No matter what, you're going to be paying at least $10 for one of these suckers, or spend an ungodly amount of time grinding to get your hands on one. There's an argument to be made here about the personal value of your time versus excessively grindy games, but that's for another video. And as you can tell from the last couple minutes, I'm about to lose my mind reading off my own script, just based on what I've experienced. This is all a shame too, because the loot box mechanic seems to be the only thing that any effort was put into. The robot has multiple cool little dances whenever it loads in the box to see what you got, and the weapons will shoot up like fun and exciting, totally not trying to trigger the same dopamine-affected slot machine prizes. Everything else is just an upscaled asset that was then downscaled with a cell shader, and stuff that was already present in Planetside 2 that took minimal effort to implement. Oh, and hey, quick last minute update. As of September 27th, the day before this goes live, they're putting in an update where now there are loot boxes that you can only grind for that contain the skill upgrades. Thanks, I guess. I can't wait to not grind 4 hours a day to get a good gear set going. Believe it or not, there are apologists for this game already. And from what I've seen and experienced in it, I'm going to chalk it up to mostly being salty vets from the Planetside 2 community and people who got roped into the beta and got incentives for that. Now, while I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus here, I did learn that people who participated in the beta got that special $60 loot box pre-order extravaganza pack for free, which I would consider something that would likely color their opinion on this game, as it seems, according to the anecdotal claims I have heard, it only takes like 50 loot boxes to get everything right now, and you get 200 of them in the $60 package. Between this and the Planetside hardliners who will defend their leftover shell of a game that is Planetside to the hilt, I see a lot of the usual defenses being brought up in regards to Planetside Arena, and I'm gonna go through the three big ones one by one and refute them. The first one I heard a lot is, it's still early access. Yeah, it is. It's been like that for 10 months now. Well, the game came out last weekend, they had their beta period, and after that, they had 9 months to work on the game after learning what they learned from beta. We live in a time where early access is not an excuse. It has not been an excuse for a long time, as AAA studios have abused that concept to no end. And if you put it out on Steam or any other platform to download and play, and there's any sort of monetization associated with the game, you better have a solid working product. Daybreak Games is a major developer who's not allowed to have the same excuses as a half dozen guys in some indie basement studio. The second big one I hear is, just wait until the massive clash mode or the other thing. Well, the problems in this game with that are, one, if I wanted something like that, I get the full experience by playing Planetside 2 again, and for second, we aren't even 1 week into this game and there isn't enough people to field a single match for this 500 on 500 fight that will supposedly solve all of Planetside Arena's problems. And at times, there's not even enough people to field one fully fledged match of squads mode, which is already out. I also can't help but notice that once this game launched, Planetside 2 Steam charts took a little dip. This spin-off might be effectively cannibalizing the main game. And lastly, we've got the big one, the it's more fun with your friends. Well, I don't know. I was playing with friends, and we were having more fun roasting this game than we were actually playing it. I hate this excuse. It's because that everything you do is more fun with friends. Because the act itself isn't what's fun. It's being with your friends that is fun. Moving a bunch of crap into an apartment is not fun. However, doing that while getting blasted and binging on pizza after a hard day is fun, because you're with your friends. Is driving 1,000 miles and staying in crappy hotels to see something fun? No. The act of being with your friends and spending time on the road is what makes a road trip fun. A game has to be fun on its own or with total strangers if it's to be taken seriously. Stop using this excuse. It's like, look at Apex. You can have fun with like total strangers. Look at all the other games where you can have fun with total strangers. Stop using this excuse. Daybreak Games had 9 months to take what they had learned from their beta period and general feedback and apply it into making a good game, and it doesn't look like they got a whole lot done. That's one Radical Heights development period, which I am now using as a unit of time measurement. You know what Radical Heights had that Planetside Arena doesn't have? A player base. Radical Heights started out with 24,000 players, and while it did fall off a cliff, it still had around 1,600 players by the end of its second month, and everyone already getting their YouTube video out. Want to know how many players Planetside Arena started with? 1,400 peak concurrent players. Going back to that early access bit, you can't get around how your launch is going to be your launch no matter what you call it. Perhaps Daybreak should have waited until they had more to offer before shoving this out into the public eye. Another issue with this game is that it seems to have no identity. Yeah, it's Planetside, but it's been so watered down that when I posted that one screen cap before my stream with the Yamix, some of my Discord peeps honestly mistook this game for BioWare's Anthem. A lot of people who still cling to Planetside franchise often describe it as being something that no other game quite does, with its combined armed fights and massive battles that ironically not even Planetside 2 can do anymore due to lack of players. The crown does not count. You could, honest to goodness, take the Planetside name off of Planetside Arena, and I'd be willing to wager very few people would have even noticed that this was based on Planetside. If I had to sum up what was wrong with this game, I'd say that this game is living 3 to 5 years in the past. It's pushing stupid amounts of loot boxes, shallow battle royale gameplay, and is heavily abusing the term early access to try to get away with a lack of content and polish. It's late in 2019 as I write this, and the gaming community at large knows that you can't get away with this stuff anymore unless you're Fortnite. You can't be stuffing $10 loot boxes down our throats unless your game is already a serious contender and people actually want to put that money in your game. That's all I can stomach of this, so we're calling it a day. Be sure to leave your salty vet comments down below and talk about how bad I am at Planetside because of my old kill-death ratio, as if that takes away any validity to the criticisms I've leveled at the game today. You do it every time I post about the Planet Mans nowadays, so let's just have it. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content about games that are actually good in the future, and please consider supporting my Patreon to help me cover the cost of making more ambitious videos. Until next time, enjoy this cat video. Frisk. Those are not your sausages. No. We bought these for us. It's people food. The neighbor's dog agrees. Don't you hide. Do we have a label? These are pretty good, by the way. But buy them at Costco. They're way overpriced everywhere else. You cannot have the sausages. They are not for you. Mommy is taking them away now. And I'm going to take these ones away because there's no point in having all of them out. Back in the fridge it goes. No sausages for you. No. No, yeah, sniff the phone and act like, I wasn't going to eat all the sausages. You totally would if you could. You wouldn't even have cooked them first. That's right. I know how dirty you are.